First contact and misconceptions. The vast expanse of space had long been humanity's final frontier, but on that fateful day in 2184, it became the stage for a pivotal moment in Earth's history. The UNSS Horizon, Earth's most advanced deep space exploration vessel, was on a routine survey mission in the Epsilon Eridani system when its sensors picked up an anomaly. Captain Sarah Chen stood on the bridge, her dark eyes fixed on the holographic display before her. "Report, Lieutenant Walker," she ordered, her voice calm despite the tension building in her chest. Lieutenant Alex Walker, the ship's sensor officer, responded with a mix of excitement and apprehension. "Captain, we're detecting a massive energy signature approaching our position. It's like nothing we've ever seen before." As the crew of the Horizon watched in awe, a massive fleet of alien vessels suddenly appeared, seemingly out of nowhere. The ships were sleek, their hulls gleaming with an otherworldly iridescence that defied human understanding. "Open a channel," Captain Chen commanded, straightening her uniform. "This is Captain Sarah Chen of the United Nations Spaceship Horizon. We come in peace and seek peaceful communication." For several tense moments, there was no response. Then, a voice crackled through the ship's speakers, its tone imperious and slightly metallic. "This is High Commander Zalthrak of the Galactic Concordiat. Your presence in this sector is unauthorized. Identify your species and state your intentions immediately." Captain Chen exchanged glances with her executive officer, Commander Raj Patel. This was not the warm welcome they had hoped for in their first extraterrestrial encounter. Nevertheless, she responded with diplomacy. "We are humans from the planet Earth. We are on a peaceful mission of exploration and scientific discovery. We were unaware that this sector was claimed by any civilization." There was a pause before High Commander Zalthrak replied, his voice laced with skepticism. "Humans, we have no record of your species. Your ship's energy signature is unusual. Are you affiliated with any of the known galactic powers?" "No, High Commander," Chen replied. "We are an independent species, only recently capable of interstellar travel. We would welcome the opportunity to establish diplomatic relations with the Galactic Concordiat." What followed was a tense negotiation. The Concordiat, it seemed, was a vast federation of alien races that had long dominated this region of space. They viewed the sudden appearance of an unknown species with advanced technology as a potential threat. Over the next few days, as more human ships arrived to support the Horizon, misunderstandings began to pile up. The Concordiat was baffled by human technology, which seemed to operate on principles they couldn't quite grasp. Human warships, while fewer in number, boasted energy shields and weapon systems that the aliens found both primitive and alarmingly effective. Admiral Viktor Volkov, commander of Earth's first interstellar fleet, arrived on the scene with a small task force. His weathered face bore the scars of countless battles fought in Earth's tumultuous unification wars. "Captain Chen," he greeted as he stepped onto the Horizon's bridge. "I hear we've made some new friends." Chen briefed the Admiral on the situation, including the Concordiat's growing unease with human presence in the sector. "They seem particularly interested in our ship designs, sir, especially our method of faster-than-light travel." Volkov nodded gravely. "Understandable. Our quantum fold drives must seem like magic to them. Hell, half our own scientists still scratch their heads over how they work." As diplomatic talks continued, the Concordiat's initial curiosity gave way to suspicion and fear. Human ships, while not as aesthetically pleasing as the alien sleek vessels, demonstrated capabilities that defied the Concordiat's understanding of physics. The human fleet's ability to appear and disappear at will, thanks to their advanced stealth systems and quantum fold drives, unnerved the alien commanders. What the Concordiat saw as a potential invasion force, humans viewed as a standard exploratory fleet. Tensions reached a boiling point when a young, overzealous Concordiat captain attempted to scan the interior of a human destroyer using an invasive probe. The ship's automated defenses interpreted this as an attack, responding with a precision strike that disabled the alien vessel's primary systems without destroying it. The incident sparked outrage among the Concordiat leadership. High Commander Zalthrak demanded an explanation, his holographic image looming large in the Horizon's conference room. "This unprovoked attack on one of our vessels is an act of war," Zalthrak thundered. "We demand that you surrender your ships and submit to Concordiat authority immediately." Admiral Volkov, his steel-gray eyes narrowing, responded with a calm that belied the gravity of the situation. "High Commander, with all due respect, your captain's actions were a direct violation of the diplomatic protocols we establish. Our ship acted in self-defense, using minimal force to neutralize a perceived threat." Zalthrak's multiple eyes blinked in rapid succession, a sign of agitation in his species. "Minimal force? That ship's entire power grid is offline. Our finest technicians are baffled as to how your primitive weapons could cause such precise damage." Captain Chen stepped forward, her voice level. "High Commander, what you perceive as primitive is simply different. We have no desire for conflict, but we will defend ourselves if threatened. Perhaps this incident highlights the need for greater understanding between our peoples." As the confrontation escalated, both sides began to realize the vast gulf of misunderstanding that separated them. The Concordiat, accustomed to their technological superiority, struggled to comprehend a species that had developed along a completely different technological path. Humans, for their part, were torn between excitement at the prospect of peaceful contact and the growing realization that they might have stumbled into a complex galactic political situation they were ill-prepared to navigate. As the first part of this unexpected encounter drew to a close, both humanity and the galactic Concordiat stood on the brink of a decision that would shape the future of their relationship. The stars themselves seemed to hold their breath, waiting to see whether this first contact would end in war or herald the dawn of a new era of interstellar cooperation. Little did either side know that the true test of their resolve and the full extent of human military capabilities was yet to come. The galaxy watched and waited as the stage was set for a conflict that would reveal just how powerful human warships truly were. The ultimatum and preparation. The tension aboard the UNSS Horizon was palpable as Admiral Volkov paced the bridge, his weathered face a mask of concentration. The holographic display before him showed the positions of both human and Concordiat fleets, a silent tableau of potential conflict frozen in the vast theater of space. "They're mobilizing, sir," Lieutenant Walker reported, his fingers dancing over the sensor controls. "Concordiat ships are taking up offensive formations." Admiral Volkov nodded grimly. "So they've made their choice. Patch me through to Earth Command." As the Admiral conferred with humanity's leadership back on Earth, Captain Chen couldn't help but feel a sense of surreal detachment. Just days ago, they had been celebrating the monumental discovery of intelligent alien life. Now they stood on the brink of interstellar war. The communication channel crackled to life, and the imposing figure of High Commander Zalthrak materialized before them. His alien features were set in an expression that Chen had learned to interpret as grim determination. "Humans," Zalthrak began, his voice resonating with authority, "the galactic Concordiat has deliberated on your presence in our space. Your refusal to submit to our authority and the attack on our vessel leave us no choice. You have 12 of your Earth hours to surrender unconditionally and submit to Concordiat rule or face the full might of our forces." Admiral Volkov stepped forward, his voice steady. "High Commander, we have no quarrel with the Concordiat. We came in peace and wish to maintain that peace. But make no mistake, if you force this conflict, humanity will defend itself with all the resources at our disposal." As the transmission ended, a heavy silence fell over the bridge. It was Commander Patel who finally broke it. "Orders, sir." Admiral Volkov's eyes hardened. "Initiate Protocol Omega. All ships to battle stations, and get me a direct line to Admiral Yuki Tanaka. We're going to need the Phantom Fleet." As the human fleet sprang into action, preparations of a different kind were taking place light years away. In a hidden shipyard orbiting a brown dwarf star, Admiral Yuki Tanaka received Volkov's transmission. Her weathered face, etched with the wisdom of countless space battles, set into a grim smile. "So the gloves are finally coming off," she murmured. Turning to her staff, she barked, "Initiate launch sequence for the Phantom Fleet. It's time to show the galaxy what humanity is truly capable of." Back on the front lines, Captain Chen supervised the Horizon's transformation from an exploration vessel to a warship. Civilian personnel were evacuated to the ship's core, while weapon systems hummed to life. "Captain," a young ensign called out, "we're picking up a transmission from Earth. It's being broadcast on all frequencies." Chen nodded, and the main view screen flickered to life. The image of United Earth President Adama Nkrumah filled the screen, his deep voice resonating with resolve. "Citizens of Earth and brave members of our space fleet," he began, "we stand at a crossroads in human history. We extended the hand of friendship to the stars and have been met with threats and ultimatums. Let it be known that humanity will not bow to intimidation. We do not seek conflict, but we will meet it with all the strength and ingenuity that has carried our species from the savannas of Africa to the stars themselves." As Nkrumah's speech concluded, a renewed sense of purpose swept through the human fleet. They were no longer just explorers or soldiers. They were the vanguard of humanity, standing against the first extraterrestrial threat their species had ever faced. In the hours that followed, the human fleet underwent a startling transformation. Ships that had appeared primitive to Concordiate eyes began to shimmer and change. Hulls that seemed fragile and utilitarian suddenly revealed layers of advanced nanomaterials, capable of adapting to various forms of energy weapons. Admiral Volkov coordinated with Earth's top scientists and strategists, implementing defense plans that had been theoretical until now. Quantum entanglement communicators ensured instantaneous coordination across vast distances, a technology that baffled Concordiate observers. Meanwhile, the Concordiate fleet grew in number, ships pouring in from nearby systems. Their technology, while different from humanity's, was impressive in its own right. Energy weapons capable of sundering planets were brought to bear, and swarms of automated fighter craft filled the space between larger vessels. As the deadline approached, both fleets hung in space, a stark visual representation of the vast cultural and technological gulf between two civilizations meeting for the first time. In her quarters aboard the Horizon, Captain Chen found a moment of quiet reflection. Her eyes fell on a small holo picture of her family back on Earth. The weight of responsibility pressed down on her shoulders. It wasn't just her crew or fleet at stake, but the very future of her species. A soft chime interrupted her thoughts. "Captain, to the bridge," came Commander Patel's voice, tight with tension. As Chen strode onto the bridge, she was met with a sight that took her breath away. The view screen showed a vast array of Concordiate ships, their formations stretching as far as the eye could see. It was a display of force meant to cow humanity into submission. But humanity had a few surprises of its own. Just as the 12-hour deadline expired, space itself seemed to ripple and tear. Where once there was empty void, suddenly there was ship after ship of the legendary Phantom Fleet. Vessels of a design never before seen by Concordiate eyes winked into existence, their hulls gleaming with a material that seemed to drink in light itself. Admiral Tanaka's flagship, the UNSS Spectre, took point position in front of the human fleet. Her voice, cool and collected, came through on all channels. "This is Admiral Yuki Tanaka of the United Nations Space Force Phantom Fleet. To the forces of the Galactic Concordiate, we stand ready to defend ourselves and our right to peaceful exploration of the galaxy. We do not wish for war, but we will not shy away from it. The choice, as always, is yours." As both fleets faced each other across the starry void, the fate of two civilizations hung in the balance. The true test of human military might was about to begin, and the galaxy would never be the same. The battle begins. The vastness of space, usually silent and serene, erupted into chaos as the first salvos were fired. The Concordiate, confident in their superior numbers and millennia of galactic dominance, struck first. A wave of energy beams lanced out from their frontline ships, a dazzling display of destructive power meant to overwhelm the human defenses in one fell swoop. But the expected devastation never came. Aboard the UNSS Horizon, Captain Chen watched in awe as the human fleet's true capabilities were unveiled. The seemingly primitive hulls of Earth's warships shimmered, the advanced nanomaterials that composed them adapting in real time to disperse and absorb the energy of the Concordiate weapons. Minimal damage reported across the fleet, Captain Lieutenant Walker reported, his voice tinged with disbelief and pride. Our adaptive shielding is holding. Admiral Volkov's voice crackled over the comms, a hint of grim satisfaction in his tone. All ships, initiate counteroffensive. Operation Slingshot is a go. What followed was a display of military prowess that would be studied in war colleges across the galaxy for centuries to come. The human fleet, grossly outnumbered but technically superior in ways the Concordiate had never imagined, sprang into action with coordinated precision. The UNSS Spectre, flagship of the Phantom Fleet, led the charge. Its sleek form seemed to bend light around it, becoming nearly invisible to both sensors and the naked eye. Only the trail of destruction in its wake marked its passage through the Concordiate lines. Quantum torpedoes, full spread, Admiral Tanaka ordered, her voice cool and collected. The Spectre shuddered as it unleashed its primary weapons. Unlike conventional warheads, these torpedoes phased in and out of normal spacetime, bypassing shields and armor to detonate within the enemy ships themselves. Concordiate vessels, mighty dreadnoughts that had struck fear into the hearts of countless alien races, began to blossom into short-lived suns as the quantum torpedoes found their marks. The Concordiate commanders, used to enemies that fought with familiar tactics and technologies, found themselves wholly unprepared for humanity's approach to warfare. But humanity's advantages weren't solely in their advanced weaponry. Years of internecine conflict on Earth had honed human tactical thinking to a razor's edge. While the Concordiate relied on overwhelming force and tried-and-true strategies, humanity's fleet commanders employed maneuvers that seemed to defy logic and physics. Captain Chen, coordinating with a battle group of smaller, nimbler craft, executed a series of micro-jumps using their quantum fold drives. To the Concordiate, it appeared as if the human ships were teleporting around the battlefield, appearing in impossible positions to strike and vanish before retaliation could be mounted. Nexus formation, now, Chen ordered. Her battle group aligned in a complex three-dimensional pattern, their ship's energy fields interlinked. What seemed like a vulnerable clustering to Concordiate eyes was, in fact, a force multiplier. The combined firepower of the formation lashed out. Cutting through the Concordiate's front lines like a scythe through wheat. Ships that had stood for millennia as symbols of the Concordiate's dominance were reduced to drifting hulks in a matter of minutes. High Commander Zalthrak, watching the battle unfold from his flagship, the Eternal Radiance, felt a sensation he had never experienced before. Fear. Impossible, he muttered, his multiple eyes wide with disbelief. Recalibrate our sensors. These readings cannot be accurate. But the sensors were not lying. The human fleet, despite being outnumbered 10-1, was decimating the Concordiate forces with ruthless efficiency. Back on the UNSS Horizon, Admiral Volkov allowed himself a grim smile. Phase 2, he ordered. Deploy the Nemesis units. At his command, bay doors opened across the human fleet. What emerged were not ships or missiles, but swarms of microscopic robots. These Nemesis, nano-enhanced mechanical espionage and system infiltration units, were the pinnacle of human nanotechnology, capable of infiltrating enemy ships and rewriting their command systems from the inside out. As the Nemesis swarms spread across the battlefield, Concordiate ships began to behave erratically. Weapon systems misfired, engines cut out, and in some cases, vessels turned their formidable armaments against their own allies. "By the cosmic elders," one of Zalthrak's officers exclaimed. "They're in our systems." But how? Our cyber defenses are impenetrable. The answer, of course, was that human warfare had evolved beyond mere cyber attacks. The Nemesis units operated on principles that blurred the line between technology and biology, using quantum entanglement to coordinate their actions faster than any computer system could respond. Meanwhile, Admiral Tanaka's Phantom Fleet was living up to its name. Using advanced stealth technology that bent light and absorbed energy signatures, these ships were striking from positions that, according to Concordiate sensors, were empty space. Phantom Squad Epsilon. Execute Maneuver Shadowdance, Tanaka commanded. A group of stealth corvettes simultaneously decloaked around a Concordiate carrier, their synchronized attack reducing the massive ship to a floating wreck before its commanders could even register the threat. The battle raged on, with human forces consistently outmaneuvering and outfighting their numerically superior foes. But it wasn't just technology that gave humanity the edge. It was their adaptability, their ability to think outside conventional strategies. Captain Chen, her ship dancing through the chaos of battle, found herself face to face with a Concordiate dreadnought. The massive vessel, easily 10 times the size of the Horizon, brought its main gun to bear. "Brace for impact," Chen shouted, but instead of attempting to evade, she gave an order that would have seemed suicidal to any other species. "Full power to forward shields. Ram them." The Horizon surged forward, its reinforced prow slamming into the dreadnought's hull. But instead of being destroyed, the human ship's nanomaterial hull reconfigured in real time, forming a spike that pierced deep into the enemy vessel. As the two ships became entangled, Chen gave her next order: deploy boarding parties. Squads of human marines, clad in powered armor that made them virtual one-person armies, poured into the Concordiate ship. The aliens, unused to close-quarters combat, found themselves outmatched by the ferocity and adaptability of human soldiers. Across the battlefield, similar scenes were playing out. Human ingenuity and their Swiss Army knife approach to warfare were proving more than a match for the Concordiate's numerical advantage. As the tide of battle decisively turned in humanity's favor, High Commander Zalthrak faced a terrible realization. His civilization, which had stood unchallenged for millennia, was on the brink of defeat at the hands of a species they had dismissed as primitive barely days ago. "All ships," he broadcast, his voice heavy with the weight of his decision, "fall back to secondary positions. Regroup at Rally Point Omega." As the Concordiate fleet began its retreat, leaving behind a graveyard of twisted metal and shattered ships, the human forces paused in their assault. Admiral Volkov's voice came through on all channels. "To all human ships, hold position. Let them go. We've made our point." A cheer went up across the human fleet. They had faced their first interstellar trial by fire and emerged victorious. But as the adrenaline of battle faded, a sobering thought settled over the commanding officers. This was only the beginning. The galaxy now knew of humanity's existence and of their formidable military might. As the remnants of the Concordiate fleet limped away, Captain Chen stood on the bridge of the Horizon, surveying the aftermath of the battle. "What now, Admiral?" she asked, her voice quiet. Admiral Volkov's holographic image flickered as he considered the question. "Now, Captain," he said finally, "we prepare for what comes next. The galaxy's status quo has been shattered, and humanity is at the center of it all." The battle was over, but the true challenge of humanity's place in a larger, more complex galactic community was just beginning. As the stars continued their eternal dance, the human fleet stood vigilant, ready to face whatever the universe might throw at them next. Turning the tide. The aftermath of the initial battle hung in space like a silent testament to the shocking power of human military might. Debris fields stretched as far as the eye could see, a graveyard of Concordiate ships that had, until recently, been considered invincible. But for the crew of the UNSS Horizon and the rest of the human fleet, There was little time to revel in their victory. Admiral Volkov's weathered face appeared on the main view screen of every human ship. "This isn't over," he said, his voice grave. "The Concordiat will regroup, and they'll come back with everything they've got. We need to be ready." Captain Sarah Chen nodded, her mind already racing with potential strategies. "What's our next move, Admiral?" "We're taking the fight to them," Volkov replied. "Our long-range sensors have detected a massive buildup of Concordiat forces in the Sigma Draconis system. That's where we'll make our stand." As the human fleet prepared for their next engagement, the true extent of their technological superiority began to reveal itself. Ships that had taken damage in the previous battle underwent rapid repairs, their nanomaterial hulls regenerating at an astonishing rate. Weapon systems were recalibrated and enhanced based on data gathered from the enemy's defenses. But it wasn't just the ships that were evolving. The neural interfaces that connected human pilots to their craft were learning and adapting, allowing for even greater synergy between man and machine. Meanwhile, aboard the Eternal Radiance, High Commander Zalthrak was facing a crisis. The Concordiat's ruling council was in an uproar, demanding explanations for their unprecedented defeat. "How is this possible?" demanded Councillor Vexera, her holographic image shimmering with barely contained rage. "These humans were unknown to us mere days ago, and now they've decimated our fleet." Zalthrak's multiple eyes blinked rapidly, a sign of his distress. "Their technology, it defies our understanding. They fight like no species we've ever encountered." "Then we must adapt," growled Councillor Krasnoth, the eldest and most militant of the Concordiat leadership. "Bring all our forces to bear. We will crush these upstarts and remind the galaxy why the Concordiat has ruled unopposed for millennia." As the Concordiat marshaled its forces, humanity was making preparations of its own. Admiral Yuki Tanaka, aboard the UNSS Spectre, was overseeing the deployment of humanity's latest weapon. "Status on Project Bifrost?" she inquired, her calm demeanor belying the intensity of her focus. Her second-in-command, Commander Ilara Vance, responded promptly. "The dimensional anchor points are in place, Admiral. We're ready to create the first stable Einstein-Rosen bridge in combat conditions." Tanaka allowed herself a small smile. "Excellent. This should give our friends in the Concordiat something to think about." As both fleets converged on the Sigma Draconis system, the stage was set for a battle that would reshape the balance of power in the galaxy. The Concordiat struck first, their ships emerging from faster-than-light travel in a dazzling display of coordinated precision. Their fleet was even larger than before, with ships pulled from every corner of their vast empire. High Commander Zalthrak's voice boomed across all frequencies. "Humans, your previous victory was a fluke, a momentary lapse in the Concordiat's eternal vigilance. Surrender now, and we may yet show mercy." Admiral Volkov's response was succinct. "We'll pass, thanks. Humanity doesn't bow to bullies, no matter how big they are." With that, the battle was joined. The space around Sigma Draconis erupted into a maelstrom of energy weapons, missiles, and ships locked in deadly dance. At first, it seemed that the Concordiat's superior numbers might overwhelm the human forces. Their ships pressed forward in waves, seeking to envelope and crush the smaller human fleet. But humanity had a few more tricks up its sleeve. "Admiral Tanaka," Volkov's voice crackled over the secure channel. "I believe it's time to show them our little surprise." "With pleasure, Admiral," Tanaka replied, initiating Project Bifrost. Suddenly, the space behind the Concordiat fleet began to warp and twist. A massive portal tore open, a swirling vortex of energy that defied the laws of physics as the Concordiat understood them. Before the alien forces could react, human ships began pouring out of the portal, catching the Concordiat in a devastating pincer movement. The Einstein-Rosen bridge, a concept that had been theoretical to most races, was being used by humans as a tactical asset in combat. "Impossible," Zalthrak exclaimed, watching in horror as his carefully planned formation crumbled under assault from two directions. But the surprises weren't over. As the battle raged on, the human ships began to change. The nanomaterials comprising their hulls shifted and reconfigured, adapting in real time to the Concordiate's attacks. Weapons that had been devastating in the previous encounter found themselves harmlessly absorbed or deflected. Captain Chen, her ship at the heart of the fray, coordinated with AI tactical systems to predict and counter enemy movements before they even began. The neural interface allowed her to process information at superhuman speeds, making decisions in microseconds that turned the tide of individual engagements. Nexus Formation Omega, she commanded, and her battle group responded instantly. Ships interlocked their energy fields, forming a geometric pattern that amplified their collective firepower exponentially. The resulting blast carved a path of destruction through the Concordiate's flagship squadron. Meanwhile, the Nemesis swarms had evolved. Learning from their previous encounter, the nanobots now moved like an intelligent fluid, flowing through the gaps in Concordiate shields and forming temporary structures that acted as weapons or shields as needed. Admiral Tanaka's Phantom Fleet struck from impossible angles, their advanced stealth technology allowing them to infiltrate deep behind enemy lines. They targeted command and control ships, throwing the Concordiate's rigid hierarchy into chaos. As the battle progressed, it became clear that this was more than just a military engagement. It was a clash of philosophies. The Concordiate, set in its ways after eons of unchallenged rule, found itself unable to adapt to humanity's fluid, ever-changing tactics. Human ships worked in concert with AI systems, forming a hybrid intelligence that could outthink and outmaneuver the enemy at every turn. Weapons thought to be the pinnacle of destruction were countered by defenses that seemed to border on the miraculous. In the heart of the Concordiate formation, High Commander Zalthrak watched as his fleet was systematically dismantled. Ships that had been the pride of the Concordia for centuries were being reduced to scrap by human vessels a fraction of their size. "How?" he whispered, his earlier bravado replaced by a growing sense of dread. How can they be so powerful? The answer, of course, lay in humanity's greatest strength, their adaptability. Forged in the crucible of their own turbulent history, humans had developed a unique approach to warfare. They didn't just fight with technology. They innovated, adapted, and overcame in ways that the Concordiate, in all its eons of existence, had never imagined possible. As the last of the Concordiate's main battle groups crumbled under the relentless human assault, Admiral Volkov's voice rang out across the battlefield. "To all Concordiate forces, your fleet is in ruins. Your tactics have failed. Surrender now, and let us end this conflict before more lives are needlessly lost." In the eerie silence that followed, the galaxy held its breath, waiting to see how the mighty Concordiate would respond to its first true defeat in living memory. The tide had turned, and with it, the future of galactic politics hung in the balance. Humanity had not just won a battle. They had announced their presence on the cosmic stage in a way that could never be ignored again. As the dust settled on the battlefield, Captain Chen looked out at the starfield, now littered with the remnants of once mighty ships. "What now?" she asked quietly, more to herself than anyone else. Admiral Volkov's voice came through, tinged with a mix of pride and caution. "Now, Captain, we prepare for peace, and hope that the rest of the galaxy is ready for humanity's arrival." The battle was over, but the true challenge of reshaping the galactic order was just beginning. Humanity had proved their military might. Now they would need to prove their wisdom and diplomacy to secure their place among the stars. Resolution and aftermath. The silence that followed Admiral Volkov's call for surrender was deafening. Across the battlefield, the remnants of the once mighty Concordiate fleet drifted aimlessly, their crews shell-shocked by the unprecedented defeat they had just suffered. Aboard the Eternal Radiance, High Commander Zalthrak stared at the holographic display, his multiple eyes blinking rapidly as he struggled to process the situation. His flagship, once the pride of the Concordiate Navy, now floated powerless amidst the debris of his shattered fleet. "High Commander," one of his officers spoke hesitantly, "we're receiving transmissions from all remaining ships. They're They're asking for orders to surrender. Zalthrak's shoulders slumped, the weight of millennia of Concordiate dominance seeming to press down upon him. With a heavy sigh, he gave the order that would change the course of galactic history. "Open a channel to the human flagship," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. Admiral Volkov's face appeared on the main screen of the Eternal Radiance. His expression was stern but not unkind. "High Commander Zalthrak," he greeted, "are you prepared to discuss terms?" Zalthrak nodded slowly. "The Concordiate surrenders, Admiral. We request a ceasefire and the opportunity to negotiate." A collective sigh of relief seemed to ripple across both fleets. The war that had threatened to engulf the galaxy was over almost as quickly as it had begun. In the days that followed, representatives from Earth and the Concordiate met aboard the neutral ground of the UNSS Horizon. Captain Chen, now hailed as a hero across human space, found herself in the unfamiliar role of diplomat. "We don't seek to destroy or subjugate the Concordiate," she explained to a wary Zalthrak. "Humanity wants to take its place in the galactic community, not rule over it." The negotiations were tense and complex. The Concordiate, unused to treating with equals, struggled to adapt to the new reality. But as the talks progressed, a grudging respect began to grow between the two sides. Councillor Vexera, speaking for the Concordiate leadership, addressed the human delegation. "We have existed for millennia, secure in our technological and military superiority," she said. "Your arrival has humbled us. Perhaps it is time for the Concordiate to remember what it means to strive, to innovate." Admiral Tanaka, her usual stoic demeanor softened slightly, responded, "That is all we ask. A chance to coexist, to share knowledge and grow together. The galaxy is vast enough for all of us." As news of the peace talks spread, other alien civilizations that had long chafed under Concordiate rule began to take notice. Embassies were established, cultural exchanges initiated. The galaxy, long stagnant under the Concordiate's unchanging dominion, began to buzz with new energy. Humanity's most significant contribution, however, came in the form of their approach to technology and problem-solving. The adaptive nature of their ships, the seamless integration of AI and human intuition, the ability to think outside conventional boundaries, all these became subjects of intense study and admiration. "It's not about having the biggest guns," Admiral Volkov explained to a mixed group of human and alien students at the newly established Galactic Academy of Sciences. "It's about how you use what you have, how you adapt to challenges. Humanity's strength has always been in our ability to face the unknown and find a way through." The aftermath of the conflict brought about rapid changes. The Concordiate, under reformed leadership, began a process of decentralization, allowing its member races more autonomy. Trade routes opened up, and scientific cooperation flourished as species that had been kept apart by Concordiate decree began to interact freely. Humanity, for its part, found itself in the unexpected position of galactic peacekeeper. Their ships, once feared for their military might, became symbols of protection and innovation. The quantum fold drive, once a closely guarded secret, was cautiously shared, revolutionizing interstellar travel. 5 years after the Battle of Sigma Draconis, Captain Sarah Chen, now Admiral Chen, stood on the observation deck of Harmony Station, a massive space habitat jointly constructed by humans and former Concordiate races. Below her, representatives from 100 different species mingled, their voices a cacophony of languages and translators. "Quite a view, isn't it?" A familiar voice spoke. Admiral Volkov, his hair now more gray than black, joined her at the window. Chen nodded, a small smile playing on her lips. "If you had told me 6 years ago that this is where we'd end up, I'd have said you were crazy." Volkov chuckled. "The universe has a way of surprising us. We came out here looking for new frontiers, and we found a whole new purpose." As they watched, a sleek ship of unfamiliar design glided past the station. Its hull shimmered with an iridescence that spoke of technology beyond even humanity's current capabilities. "The Andromeda Collective," Volkov explained, noting Chen's curious glance. "A new alliance of races from the galactic rim. They've requested our help in establishing diplomatic relations with the broader galactic community." Chen raised an eyebrow. "And they came to us, not the Concordiate." "Times have changed, Sarah," Volkov said with a wry smile. "Humanity's reputation precedes us now, not just as warriors, but as mediators, innovators, friends." As the two admirals continued their conversation, the station rotated slowly, bringing the vast expanse of the galaxy into view. Stars twinkled in the distance, each one a potential home to new wonders, new challenges, and new opportunities for cooperation. The human warships that had once been instruments of destruction now served as bridges between civilizations. Their power, once feared, had become a force for unity and progress in a galaxy learning to embrace diversity and change. As humanity looked to the future, they did so not as conquerors, but as partners in a grand cosmic experiment. The stars, once distant and unreachable, now beckoned with infinite possibilities. And in the great tapestry of the universe, a new thread had been woven, one of hope, innovation, and the indomitable human spirit.